Welcome to Scarves and Spikes, everybody. Sydney and Tommy with you. No Tyler this time. He'll be back with us on Wednesday. But Tommy, you got a lot to talk about. Big news day for Atlanta United, huh?
Transfers, more
Transfers.
money. Hearing $50 million from Doug that we're gonna go spending. Let's grab the credit card and go out to the world, baby.
The bank account is fully replenished. Not replenished, but fully stocked. So a lot of money for Atlanta United, like you said, to do what they need to do. We'll obviously hit on RSL. We'll talk about the U.S. Open Cup match on Tuesday against Indy 11. A little minor, well, not minor note, but Atlanta United, not Atlanta United, but Zayko Barca getting sold. It sounds like to Spartak Moscow in the Russian league for 11 million. Atlanta United set to get a cut for that, or cut up that amount, due to the negotiations they made when they first signed him or first sold him. So more money in the pocket of Atlanta United to make these moves. But the big news, Tommy, we got to talk about. It sounds like Caleb Wiley to Chelsea or Blueco is pretty imminent. David Ornstein reporting from the Athletic reporting that he is off to Chelsea and set to be loaned to Strasbourg in Ligue 1 for $11 million on a 7-year deal. So a very significant investment that Chelsea are making for a homegrown left back. And this is nothing like George Bell a few years ago. This is a much better situation for Caleb, a much better situation for Atlanta United, and really a terrific move for him. It looks like this is all but signed, sealed, delivered at this point. So I'm very happy to see it. What do you think?
You make it before the player becomes unhappy. And Caleb Wiley,
Yeah.
obviously he's a local kid. His parents own that great pizza shop.
Yeah.
Great pizza if you haven't been there. But I mean, you have a Bellows was starting to become toxic, right? Like it kind of came out of nowhere where, he's wanting out, and it didn't seem like things were going great with that transfer, right? It kind of like seemed
Yeah.
like it was happening very fast. And in a situation like this, you want to see a player leave at the right time, right? So there's not an agent or anything saying, my player wants to leave this team. And,
Right.
Unfortunately, we've had that a few times with this franchise. And being able to see a young kid come in, his first game score in an MLS goal, a
Yeah.
nice one, in front of a packed Benz, and then, continue his career and move up. I think this was the perfect time for Atlanta United. You're already doing Atlanta United, the reboot part 5 at this moment, but you're doing the full reboot. You're not doing what I call is the half-ass reboot, right? Where it's just a
Yeah.
guy or two here. You are going through a full restructure here.
Yeah.
This is now going to be a full Garth Lagerwey, Carlos, if you want to include him on here. Some people will are just throwing up thinking of that. But I mean, this is a unity here of going through the full thing. It's not just adding one DP. You're adding 2 DPs, potentially
Mhm.
3, possibly U22s here we could be talking about, whether at the end of this summer window or at the end of next year. And now you're going to have to replace Caleb Wiley as well here. And with the new rules coming in here, which I still don't fully understand, I'm not reading them again until I find out that they're all legit, because understanding MLS rules is annoying. But when they sign on the dotted line and the Athletic says these are the rules, I will pay attention to them more and promise you I'll have a better understanding. But at least the quick glance is that this is the time to do it, because you'll be able to get a little bit more spending cash this time around. In GAM, to be able to, the Caleb Wiley selling will give you some extra GAM here, which is, obviously the team can use. And Garth
Yeah.
Lagerwey already talked about it on 92.9 the other day. Like they want to use that, they want to get GAM, they want to spend. So we're not going to be the Atlanta Hawks here, people, where we're not going to be spending any money. That we're going to be, a lottery, or at this time a spoon
Right.
candidate, right? They want to spend and they want to win, and that's good to hear.
Yeah, and Wiley was on a pretty good chunk of change. Just over $150,000 was his total compensation, or projected total compensation for 2024. So, Tommy, like you said, that's money in the kitty for Atlanta United from a roster building standpoint solely, to not backfill that spot because they have Amador coming in from Portugal, but to really build this team. When you're talking about like all the moves that Atlanta United have made with Gigi, with Almada, with Wiley potentially, with Bargo to a bit of a lesser extent, although that puts money in your pocket. I was thinking, the house has been not completely torn down, but some of the studs are showing, and you have so much more wiggle room than you did last year. And like you said, this is time for you have no excuses at this point. You really have no excuses. Sure, you have a Bar and Sosa still kind of on your books on loan away from the club, and you could potentially sell those players and open up those U22 slots. But yeah, you have a lot of money to deal with, and Wiley is just another piece of that puzzle. You talked about Bello, and we already mentioned, it's such a different situation than Bello because I feel like, and it's been talked about, I feel like he had a lot of voices in his ear telling him, okay, you need to make this move now, or you never will. And he did, and unfortunately, the teams he played with got relegated in the back-to-back seasons, which you never want to see, and it kind of forced him to reassess his overall journey. But with Caleb, and we can kind of snicker and laugh about the state of Chelsea and all of that, but this is a really good move. Granted, he's not going to be playing for Chelsea, but he's going to be playing for Strasbourg, and we already talked about it a few days ago. Strasbourg aren't the best club in France, to be fair. There are worse clubs, though, but at the same time, he'll be playing in League 1, and some of the jokes about, oh, it's a one-team club or one-team league with PSG and everybody else. You're still playing in Europe. You still have a chance to play in Champions League football if you do well enough. And I'm not a league expert or French football expert. They finished near the bottom of the table, um, unfortunately for them last season, but they have a very credible manager, Patrick Vieira, that he'll be playing for in Strasbourg. A player, one of the really a legend in English football, and has some success as a manager in MLS. So he's familiar with MLS. He's familiar with American football, the style of player that Wiley is. So maybe he breaks through to Chelsea here and there, maybe as a cup player toward the later early rounds of the cup and get some minnows or things like that. But I'm really excited for Caleb. He's put in a great shift since coming up through the ranks as a U12 player, making his way to a homegrown signing. Lady United 2, that match in 2022 you mentioned, scoring out his debut, just making his way up the ranks to a very serviceable MLS left back, and now potentially on the move to Europe. So good for him. I'm sure he'll be missing Atlanta. This is really the only home he's known. His parents, like you mentioned, very involved in the community on the south side of Atlanta. So it's going to be tough for him. I mean, this is home. It's going to be tough, but I think he understands, and the people around him understand that this is the best move for him. I think Atlanta United understands that as well. This is the best move for him.
Yeah, and signing that long term of a contract, like they obviously have plans for you, right? Your goal is to end up in Chelsea. That's the goal, right? You're going to end up there eventually here. Now, how quick? That's up to him
Yeah.
and the coaching staff. But I could see him making a jump. He's got to work a little bit better defensively, right, on side things. But I
Yeah.
mean, he can do a little bit of everything. So I think it's good. And I know before we get on to the next subject, I tweeted this yesterday, but I mean, go back and listen to the interview with Jason Longshore, Mike Conti, and Garth Lagerwey. Previous, prior to the game against RSL, they had
On
a
the
long
game.
conversation. I'm sorry.
It's on the game. Prior
Yeah,
to the
on
game,
the
on
game.
the game.
Yeah, part of the game on the game. They had a long conversation, and they talked about the transfers, and one of the things that Garth just said specifically is like, Mr. Blank lets us take all of the profit, all of the profit. I just want to make sure I say that twice, and put it back into the team,
Yeah.
right? And he said, the next couple windows, they might not spend it all now, but they're going to spend that money somehow here in the next few windows, for sure, right?
You have
And
to.
right. And the main thing here is that I think we're done with the times of we need to make emergency signings, right? And I say this
Right.
all the time, but our friend of the show, Jurgen Dahm, thank you, Jurgen, for introducing us. He, I mean, like you're not going to have that, right? And like he keeps talking about it, and you listen to him on Extra Time when they were all talking about the players, and they're obviously having more conversations with Garth Lagerwey as well. He wants long-term success. That's going to be it.
Yeah.
We're not going to be signing a 1 or 2 year player here, right? We're going to be looking for long-term guys that are here for 3, 4 years. Sleesh was signed long-term. Gregerson was signed long-term. I think you're going to find some of these DP contracts here are going to be some guys that are coming into their prime, sign for 4 or 5 years here, hoping that, yeah, you know what, maybe we keep them for at least 3, 4, and then maybe sell them around
Yeah.
then. Like that's the ultimate goal here, I think, for them is they don't want, they want us to be a former Toronto, not current Toronto, because current Toronto team's trash. A former Toronto Portland team that just every year they're going to be in the playoffs and they're going to be a threat.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. And now you've got 50 plus million here to spend in the next couple of windows. It's time to put up or shut up for that front office for sure.
Yeah, kind of going back to Seattle just real quick. You look at a player like Jordan Morris, who's been in Seattle forever. Born and raised Seattle. His dad works for the club. Very close ties to Seattle, and I'm sure he's had very good reason to make a move to Europe at different stages of his career, and maybe injuries had a thing or two to do with it. But he stayed at Seattle. He's been a long term. He's put down roots. Well, not put down roots because he's a Seattle guy, but he's not made that move. And I feel like it kind of speaks to the culture that Garth built in Seattle. I feel like eventually that'll be a culture that he will build in Atlanta. I feel like you hear culture talked about a lot. He wants to build a culture where players don't just sign for a couple of years and go. I mean, GG with notwithstanding, but bring in maybe not superstars, but guys that can get the job done. Guys like I'll say Jeff Larentowicz, gritty, tough player that I mean, he wasn't a superstar, but he been around a lot in MLS. Michael Parker, same thing. Maybe a superstar from a center back standpoint, but not like a face of the franchise kind of guy. And that's no respect to either of them. But you know what I'm saying. I feel like more of those players will be brought in under Gart's leadership. Um, and that, yeah, we'll see hopefully that long term success for Atlanta United. And again, if no excuses, you have kind of the shackles are off, and you really have, to some extent, a blank check that you could go out and get players that can really push this team to its to over the top to the upper echelon of MLS. I do want to ask you though, do you think he plays tomorrow against Indy 11?
I don't think if the deal is as close as they're saying, and I just got home. I was traveling, so I got home. I was kind of surprised by all the tweets
Yeah.
and all the Wiley tweets. But I mean, if it's this close, I don't think that we see him tomorrow.
Yeah. I I think if the match is in hand, I could see Wiley getting a run out for like 15 minutes, even though the news may not be official, but it'll pretty much be official during the Olympics, I'm sure, at the latest. But I'm prepared for the fact that if he plays tomorrow, it'll be his last time in Atlanta United shirt. So I think maybe he gets maybe a 10, 15 minute run out. I don't think it was ever going to start in the first place tomorrow, but yeah, I think Rob Valentino understands how important it is for Caleb to get his just due as an Atlanta United player. I think if the match is in hand, he'll certainly get about 15 minutes or so, maybe no more than that. One other thing I want to add too is kind of your depth. Um, you have Ronald Hernandez playing at left back, I'm sure, until Amador comes with the team. And according to Doug Robertson, he's not with the team just yet. He could train with the team, even though it's before July 18th. He just can't play for them. So Amador's not here, so I
Where is he?
imagine.
Hurry
I
up!
mean, yeah.
We have a
So
Columbus Crew game on the
right,
on the 20th or 19th or whatever it is. Like I'm sorry, but like that game's gonna be
yeah.
RSL Atlanta United bad if we don't get at least one player coming in here in this window.
No, but I'm sure he'll be on his way. I feel like maybe some visa things need to be ironed out, so he's not too far off. But I would like to see a little more depth. I mean, you have Hernandez there. I'm sure you have Edwards, who could probably play left back, but I would love to see a quality depth signing at left back. So you're not having to look to Matt Edwards as much. You can could they have him develop a little more of Atlanta United too? Maybe get him more minutes in 2025. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the depth is going to be restructured here after this season,
Yeah,
in the offseason. I think that they're going to have to. And I just, again, with what I see from Ronald Hernandez, and he's had a couple decent moments in the past couple games. Obviously, a big one was that one block with his boys down there that took that big block against. Oh wow, I'm already blanking out. Toronto, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that he took a kick to the baby maker there with that ball, and
The
I
nether
mean,
regions.
yeah, I can't trash talk a man after he does that. But I think that you're gonna try and get the best bang for your buck with positioning here, and as Ronald Hernandez, he's when you need him, he's called upon. I think when he's in the right set up in the right position, he does well. I think he's still better on the right, and he has scored some a couple nice goals for the national team, and he scored one
Yeah,
banger for Atlanta. But I think that I think you're going to restructure everything you have here. I don't think Ronald Hernandez is here next year. I just don't.
yeah.
I think that he's going to move on at some point with his contract there
Oh
and
yeah.
just his value there. I think it's just time to move on. And I think is it a player option this year? I have to go back and
I
look.
believe so. I'll have to double check. I believe it is though.
I mean, unless you restructure it and make it more cap friendly,
Yeah.
because he's always healthy, right? And he's available, and he hasn't gone to Venezuela lately. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
obviously helpful as well. I don't know. I just think that you're going to see the position. I mean, especially left back, you're going to see change a lot here. But I think as far as depth goes, I think you're going to go try and maybe find someone a little bit more friendly, uh, cap friendly for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's Caleb Wiley, and it looks like he is not too far off from a move to Strasbourg and the Chelsea family. So look at it and monitor it for us when you cover it on scarsandspikes.com here on YouTube and all that good stuff. So with that said, we got to talk about RSL,
We lost. All right, Indy,
right?
Indy
All
11,
right,
right?
11 tomorrow. No, I mean it. Frankly, it was to be expected. I do want to shout out Atlanta United because he gave up a goal the first minute, and you like, oh my gosh, here we go. This is gonna be a blow, and it was a blowout, but they handled themselves very well. I think in that first half, they didn't get rattled, they didn't get shaken, and they ended up equalizing it in the first half. And I'm, yeah, they could have very well melted. They could have very well fell apart. Um, But Saba scores that goal, just past the half hour mark to get it back on level terms. You hope that they would have gotten maybe one toward the end of the half, get yourself a lead, get yourself maybe have a chance to see out a possible huge win on the road. But things just kind of fell apart in the second half. Luna, who got snubbed for the Olympic team, essentially just put the team on his back and just said, "Screw you, Marko Mitrovic. This is what you missed out on." Um, but yeah, he played with a chip on his shoulder. That's what his coach said. Pablo Mastroeni, was poking the bear. Luna plays with his chip on his shoulder, and he finishes with a goal and 3 assists on the night. So I think that was just a matter. Most of it, and we can get into the tactics and laying that should have done this, should have done that, etc. But I think it boils down to the fact that you're missing two DPs, you're missing uh, three DPs, yeah, with Gregerson not playing, who probably was never going to play in the first place. Um, Unless he came in as a sub if he was available. So you're missing three
Why you say that?
DPs. So look, Open Cup. I think you have some challenge. You have had some challenges with player selection anyway. So I don't know if Gregerson would have played too much. I think he would maybe come in later on in the second half. But there are some things that Rob Valentino needs to juggle heading into this match tomorrow. We'll get to it a little bit later, but yeah, that's where I kind of come from. Fortunately, in a way, it kind of works out. Kind of a cruel kind of way of working out because Stian doesn't play. He gets the chance to really rest up and play for you tomorrow. But yeah, I think it was just a matter of just the gulfing class between Atlanta United and RSL just being too wide ultimately. And you saw what a really good team can look like with all their DPs, all their key players clicking at the same time. And you saw it with RSL, and they are a team that could very well win the West, come out of the West. Either them, LAFC, or the LA Galaxy. It's kind of like the big three out west, but it's always going to be a tough ask. You're coming across the country. You have a match on Tuesday. Um, you're coming off a tough loss. So I think it was always going to be a tough ask. But again, credit to them for hanging on as long as they could. But they're never gonna, I feel like, hang on for the whole match, I think.
And there's elevation issues there, correct too? I
Yeah,
thought I heard someone talking about that. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, the combination of everything here, and we're gonna say this probably here eh, when we get to Montreal, and then we get to New York FC.
yeah,
It's like the Rob's in a bad situation. Like he's a head coach, right, of an MLS team, right? He's getting the experience that he
yeah,
needs, whether it's for here or somewhere else. But this is a much harder stance than it was last time, right? Like than when he was with the last time go round.
yeah,
Like I have to go back and look to see what he had, but I know he definitely had more than what he has to than what he has to deal with now,
right, for
and
sure.
that's the problem right now is that you don't have a lot of players, and when you're going up against especially really good teams, and you have no DPS on the field. I mean, if anyone saw my tweet, I won a ton of
Yeah,
money on this game because I knew that this was just going to be a shit show. And I was at dinner for our anniversary, and I see game started. I go, okay. I put my phone down, and it went off again. I'm like, why is the MLS app sending me again? 1 minute in,
one
1 minute
minute,
in,
one
really?
nil.
That's what's happening. And then I just remember looking at the stats later, and Atlanta was out shooting them, and they had more shots on target at that point, like when it was getting towards the half, and I saw a lot of tweets, especially they were like, "Man, if we had some guys that could finish, like we could be up in this half, maybe 2-1, three to
Yeah,
one," and that didn't happen. And then obviously they ended up doing um what happens. They end up allowing a goal, and it just
yeah,
goes downhill from there.
yeah,
You're on short rest already. You're on a long trip home. Like those things happen, and unfortunately, um, that's the way it's going to work in MLS.
yeah. I think it's one of those matches where you just throw it away and say, you know what, it happened. Let's never talk about it again. And yeah, I was hoping maybe they would get a point out of it. And when they scored, when Saba scored in the 31st minute, and Saba quietly has had a good season. I mean, he should be on more than 5 goals, really, but he's just had some poor finishing luck at times this year. But he's quietly had a good season for Atlanta United. And not that he's not confiding anybody, but he's gotten, granted, he scored twice against Miami, but he's come with some key goals for Atlanta United. And I don't know, maybe he finishes with double digit goals at the end of the season. We'll see. But when he scored, again, Atlanta kind of put themselves in a really good position to maybe get something out of this. They stayed on the attack, which I expected they would. I mean, it's RSL are just so lethal in the attack. I don't know. I don't think that staying in the defensive shape for Atlanta United would have helped them too much. But yeah, it's like the dam just broke in the second half, and the dam was just breached, and they just got flooded out of the stadium. Really, so again, a team like that, a team with so many deficiencies in their roster, missing so many players, could only hold on so long. And I think Atlanta United did their best to do that. Yes, maybe they should have finished here and there, but at the same time, RSL were always going to be a tough team to beat in the first place. So burn the tape, forget about it, don't speak of it again, and just move on. Just move on and hope that you have players coming in that can prevent something like this from happening again because Atlanta United, they just got beat down. And you don't see that too often with this team per se, but there's just one of several teams on Saturday that get beat down. And they could, come out demoralized by it, but hopefully they'll keep their heads up and, again, just forget about it and move on.
I mean, really, if you want to use Garth Lagerwey's terms, you have 3 DP lights on this roster, right? And Gregerson was out. You have Sleesh and you have Saba, but Saba was coming off of, short rest of flying home, right? His travel, right? Traveling back. So,
Yeah.
he's not fully there either. It's rough here. I mean, I understand why the results are. If
Mhm.
you've got some backups to the backups in there, it's going to hurt. TRA, who has who's been scoring some goals here, he's not
Yeah.
available. Gregerson, playing one of the best offensive teams there, and he's not there. It's going to hurt here. So with all that, I'm going to ask you this question. You've got 2 MLS games left before the window opens, and you can get
Yeah.
anyone ready for Columbus. So you're away at Montreal on Saturday, and then you are at home against New York FC. We get at least 1 point out of those 2 games?
I mean, you have to. I think.
Well, you have to, but do you? That
I
because
think.
it's easy to say you have to
Yeah.
get the points, but do they? Do they actually do it?
I think they do. I think their best chances against Montreal, um, because Montreal have. I mean, they haven't had a terrible season, but they've kind of had a little bit of a rough stretch. They got a really good result against the Whitecaps, who came in and they scored kind of late to snatch a point away from that match. So again, they aren't having the best season, but that's such a critical match because these are teams 10 and 11 in the Eastern Conference standings as we speak right now. So it's essentially a 6-pointer. So you can't afford to go on the road and come away with anything but a point from that match, anything less than a point from that match. I think they will. I think that they'll be able to take the match to Montreal and hopefully get a point. I would say they have a good chance at getting a win in Montreal. So we'll
Joseph
see what happens.
Martinez, do you
Yeah,
hear this? Do you hear this, Joseph?
forgot about him. Almost forgot about him. So yeah, there's Montreal, New York City FC looking for a top 4 spot. A team that maybe hasn't been in the best form. Just looking at the form guy right now, they've lost 4 of their last 6. They went back to back against. They were on a 3-match or 5-game winning streak. Lost their next 3, won back to back matches, and then lost at Austin in the weather delayed game. So they haven't been able to quite keep the momentum from that 5-match winning streak they were on a few weeks ago. So we'll see what the team looks like against New York City FC. But I think, yes, definitely get a point or 3 against Montreal. And hopefully you can do the same against New York City FC. Hopefully you can win against New York City FC at home and not have to worry about TRA um, tricking or coming away with a last second goal to win. So that's kind of where I stand. What do you think? How do you think things will shake up?
I don't think they get anything in the next couple of games,
You don't.
unfortunately. No, I look. Again, you've had a little bit of success on the road. I mean, we'll see what happens here. Well, I'm just focused on Tuesday at this point here, and that's
Yeah.
where I was interested to see this conversation because I've been chatting with some people about this game and what they think the lineup's going to be here. But man, going into this Indy game, I can't. I can't. If we did what we did last game, and you threw in a lot of young kids in that game,
Yeah.
I understand you're still facing a lower team. This is the quarterfinals, right?
Yeah.
This is important. If trophies are important to this team still, I know Darren Eales talked about it nonstop. Trophies, trophies, trophies. If it's still important and everything's important, you are in a quarterfinal. I don't care what you do here. You need to throw in as much as you can, at least, to get this team to win this game. To win it convincingly, hey, if you go up 2-3-0 early in this game, then you can go and make a whole bunch of changes, right?
Yeah.
And get those guys rest. I am going to be extremely frustrated. And I said this last game, and that game, people are arguing, well, we won, right? We won in penalties.
Barely.
We won off, yeah, right. And like we had Josh Cohen saves left and right, some really
Yeah.
nice Josh Cohen saves. We almost, I mean, we were completely dead in the last like 5-10 minutes of that, that the second half of extra time, and then you had to make two great saves by Cohen and penalties to
Yeah.
to advance here. Take this seriously. Like
Yeah.
you have to pick and choose here, and I know the standings are where the standings are,
Right.
but you need to move on. And even LAFC have played some games in this Open Cup where they have started legit players here because they wanted to make sure they got the win.
So, I mean, with that said, you still don't think Wiley plays tomorrow?
No,
No?
it's a how much money are they making? $10 million.
No, I get that, but I mean, if you let me say this, I don't think they need Caleb Wiley specifically out there to win this match. I think, and people will rip me apart in the comments. That's fine. Uh,
Rip them,
Hernandez.
rip them.
uh, you got to start Hernandez tomorrow. You have to start Ronald Hernandez. Granted, he's kind of the whipping boy of Atlanta United, but I mean, you got to start Hernandez. I just pulled up the starting 11 for the Charleston match. You had Hernandez on the left, Edwards on the right. I think Matt Edwards may start tomorrow. Lisa Bram, Morales. I think you see one or two of them tomorrow. Cohen will certainly start in that. Edward Mosquera, he started that match, but he was training by himself today on Monday, so I don't know if we see him. Certainly, think we see Luke Brennan. Daniel Rios, we'll see him.
Who
You're in a
else you
little
got?
bit you're a little bit, yeah, you're in a little bit of a bind from a striker standpoint because Tiare is hurt, as you mentioned. So I don't know. Do you put Saba out there as a striker? Um, you don't have a lot of options, and I think the thing with Saba is, he hasn't played too much for the team. Granted, he was at Euros, but I mean, you don't have a lot of options at backup striker. So God forbid, knock on wood, if Rios goes down, hey, who do you put up there? So maybe that's something to monitor. Um, you also have Ashton Gordy could start. Dax McCarty, I think, will start. And Nick Firmino, I think, will start tomorrow. So, I mean, you have, like I said, you have some roster dilemmas, some selection dilemmas, I should say, if you're Rob Valentino. Actually, I scratched that. McCarty played a good bit against RSL. I forgot. So I think
60.
I think Muliba
Wait,
will start. I think that's why he came off the bench.
yeah.
Do you play Jay Fortune tomorrow? Slish went, on Saturday. He started. So do you play Jay Fortune, Muliba Fortune midfield? So if you're Rob
I think
Valentino,
so. I think that's exactly where you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
100%.
I mean, that's the dilemma you're in. If you're Rob Valentino, you want to
Does
go
Firmino?
for
Where
it.
does Firmino fit in?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're not managers, right? But
Well, this is why nobody. We said this last Open Cup, and we forgot to put it out there. But we said if anybody guesses the exact lineup, we'd buy them something from the Scarves and Spikes store. No, and I felt bad because we didn't tweet it, but nobody was going to guess what they did. That was a crazy lineup, and I remember we were very angry about it, and it was it looked like they weren't throwing everything at the
seriously, yeah,
tournament. But now you're in the quarterfinals here. Like the game has changed now. It's been upped, right? A Champions League spot is up for grabs. If you
yeah.
can get to the finals, which is a little bit down, I think it's in August or September.
September, October.
Yeah, so I mean, you have you can get past this, then hopefully your transfers start coming in, right? Your DP start coming in here, and now you
Yeah,
have a completely different team available. Basically, you could do what, and it's a little bit different situation, but Miami last year, right? Miami all of a sudden supercharges their team,
right.
right? And then
To a
all of a
lesser
sudden they go
extent,
to Leagues
obviously.
Cup and win the whole damn thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is a little bit easier. If you could get past this game, then you have time to make your team better, and then all you got to do is win 2 games, right? Just 2
Yeah.
games. The next one's going to be on the road, and then after that, who knows who would be hosting the final. But man, if you can host LAFC at home with some new DPs intact, I'd take that.
It's either Sporting Kansas City in the next round if they win on Tuesday, either Sporting Kansas City or FC Dallas, which are two teams in different areas of turmoil. Sporting KC can't find their footing. Dallas is on an interim coach. So, I mean, you win tomorrow. I mean, you have to fancy your chances in beating either Sporting KC or Dallas. Granted, it's on the road, but you have to at least fancy your chances. And with that match being on August 27th, you could have DPs in here where, yeah, you could definitely make a strong push for it and fancy yourself a chance at making the finals. So
Two
definitely not
wins.
out of yeah, 2 wins,
It's 2 wins
exactly.
after this. You can get
Yeah.
past this. It's 2 wins. Don't screw around. Don't get cute. I understand you have Montreal, but you know what? It's a Tuesday. I get it. It's a Tuesday, so you have
Yeah.
You have an extra day than normal midweek MLS games, right? Opposite side of that, you have one less day to recover. Indy played on Friday, so they have one extra day to recover from their
Yeah.
game here. But Indy's going to treat this game like it's a championship game,
Yeah.
right? And
They have nothing to lose.
Charleston did too, right? Charleston went in and they tried to win, and you know what? They looked damn good against the lineup that we put out against Charleston in the last game, right? They
Yeah.
looked good, and like I didn't know the hype of what the battery was, right? You guys all talked about the battery. Everyone just talks to the battery like
Tried to tell you.
they're yeah, right. The team of the South. And I was like, okay, what's so special about them? And I watched that game and I was like, this is how I want our team to play, right? Like I
Yeah.
want them to be exciting. I want them to constantly be attacking. I don't know much about Indy at all here, but if I'm Indy, I'm coming in here and I'm just right. You're playing with house money at this point. You beat another MLS team and you move to the semifinals. That gets your team talking and that gets you potential. Well, no, they wouldn't be hosting. So I mean, still you're gaining some value for your team here and some recognition. So they're going to be going all in here. So I'm hoping Atlanta United treats it like they're going all in here. And what that looks like is probably not going to be what I hope, but I hope I mean Silva played 60, Saba played 69, nice. And I mean McCarty played 60, Sleesh played 90. Try to do what you can. Try to get these guys in. Survive. I mean, man, I was just on FOTMob just looking things up. 4.8 for Ronald Hernandez. I don't think I've seen anything that low in a long time.
Everyone pounced on that, right?
Brad Guzan 3.7. Like I understand, 6 goals
No,
came
that's
in.
not his fault.
I get it. Like, but man,
Yeah.
3.7, and Cobb got 4.7. I didn't even realize he was lower than Hernandez. At least Williams still got a 5.2. But yeah, I mean, you gotta do what you can here, and yeah, Gregerson's a must start, and he did start last one, right? But then he got concussed. So I mean, that's obviously hope that crazy situation doesn't happen again. But I think you get Gregerson in there as a leadership type thing on the defensive side. Make
Yeah.
sure that you don't allow some goofy goal against Indy, and hopefully Silva, Saba, Rios, Brennan, whatever combination of them can get a goal or two and just finish it off. And if you don't start Sleesh in this game, because he played, he got subbed out at 90, that's fine.
Yeah.
Go. I mean, bring him in late. Bring him in as the closer in the game if need be. If you're up 1-0 here in the 80th minute, 75th minute, bring Sleesh in. Bring him in to help close this game out. That's the hope.
So
what's your prediction?
I was
Were you
just
gonna ask
gonna
that?
ask you that. Just gonna ask you that.
And
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
be
anyone.
careful what you say.
Yeah, I
Be careful what
know.
you say. The Indy 11 people are watching. This is gonna be in their locker room. So don't be like, we have to win.
I I feel like it's gonna be a low scoring game because for the reasons we just talked about. In the 11, they're a really good team, top 3 in the Eastern Conference, between or behind, was it Louisville and Charleston? Yeah, I could have that flipped around. Louisville and Charleston. Louisville always a good team. Charleston have really done well under Ben Pierman, who could be an MLS manager before long. But that's just a quick side note. But I
What's the
think
score?
2-1 Atlanta. 2-1 Atlanta. I could see maybe Atlanta getting a late goal to win the match. What about you?
Can't handle that. Hey, at least there's goals in this Open Cup game, right?
Right? Yeah, no
The
kidding.
0-0
Yeah,
after
none of that,
120
please.
minutes.
None of that.
I'm going to say it's 2-0 Atlanta. I respect you, Indy,
Okay.
and all 11 of you, but I will not. I think it's going to be 2-0. I think defensively you're going to be fine, but I think Rios is going to score, and it's either going to be somehow Fortune's going to end up in, or not Fortune, I'm sorry, Firmino. I know they like Firmino. You know, he really hasn't had too much opportunities, but I think that he's somehow going to fit into this game, whether it's a sub or early on. But I think Rios and Firmino end up scoring here, and you move on, and
2
you
wins
hopefully have
away.
reinforcements. You have reinforcements hopefully ready
Yeah.
and willing to play.
Yeah. 7 o'clock kickoff from Fifth Third Stadium in Kennesaw. Tuesday night, tomorrow night. Of course, 1990 game if you want to listen locally. It's on the app as well. Odyssey app. It's on MLS Season Pass as well. You do not need an MLS Season You don't need an MLS
Oh,
Season Pass subscription. It is
thank the
free.
Lord. You had to I've never been more frustrated in my life to figure out how to get that game on my Xbox. Like anything else I could get it on, but Xbox, it was like I
It
had
took
to
some doing.
log into a VPN, pretend that I lived in, Russia, and then VPN out of Russia back into the United States to get the link to send to my Xbox.
Try not to
Lordy,
get arrested.
I was literally trying to send the link through my Xbox app on my phone to my Xbox there to click it, and that didn't even work. I'm not that old. I swear I know technology, but it was a real pain in the ass because you had to click the link from the Open Cup or the MLS site or whatever it was, and you can't do
So
that on an
annoying.
Xbox.
That's so annoying.
Thank you, Season Pass. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, fortunately, you don't need to do all that. Just open up the Apple TV app, and it will be there. No subscription required. So if you're not a MLS Season Pass subscriber, why not? First of all, and then number two, you just need, I think, an Apple ID or something like that. It's absolutely free. So they'll be streaming all of the matches from the quarterfinals on for East Open Cup. I also hear VAR will be in effect for open up quarterfinals on, so somebody else can keep an eye on. But 7 o'clock MLS Season Pass, 1990 the game Odyssey app. We will have our pre-match show at 6 p.m. Eastern time here on YouTube, X, and on really all of our social media channels. ScarvesandSpikes.com, Patreon.com/ScarvesandSpikes, and all that good stuff. Be sure to support us. We really do appreciate your support. You watching, you listening, you subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share with everyone you can. We really do appreciate it. Any final thoughts?
We need to be like the cool YouTubers and be like and subscribe, and then a
Smash
little
that subscribe
fancy
button.
noise. Well, then magical noise happens. I watch my kids watch all the most obnoxious YouTube people.
Yeah.
More obnoxious than me, and they're just it's like and subscribe, and there's unicorns and fireworks flying out. We need that. But yeah, I mean, and we have a watch along on Saturday, our Patreon watch along against Montreal. So come watch us, watch Joseph Martinez possibly score against us. We never know, but it'll be fun, and I'll bring the poutine.
Sounds good. I look forward to the poutine, virtual poutine.
Yeah, hey, watch it. That's for people that don't know what poutine is, they're gonna think that's real dirty. So, with that, thank you for listening, and have a magical day.
Au revoir.
See ya.